Okay, picture this. You're taking a walk, maybe along the Boston waterfront late one evening, and out of nowhere you hear this gravelly voice yell, "Hey, hey, get out of there!" You kind of jump, look around for maybe a security guard or something, but there's nobody there, absolutely no one.
Then you hear it again, clear as day, and you follow the sound right to a big old harbor seal just chilling in a pool. And no, I'm not making this up. This actually happened back in the 80s. The seal's name was Hoover, and he got pretty famous for, basically talking like a person. But this whole incredible story, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It gets you thinking about what really separates a seal just mimicking sounds from what we do, from our ability to use language. So today, let's dive into that. We're going to break down the 6 key properties that make human language our own unique superpower.
So what is the real difference here? Is Hoover the seal just a great mimic, or is there something way, way deeper going on with human language? Well, that's exactly what we're here to unpack.
All right, so at a high level, the contrast is pretty huge, right? On one hand, you've got us with this super flexible, open-ended system for talking about anything and everything, even abstract ideas. And on the other, you've got animal communication, which is usually a limited set of signals about stuff that's happening right now, like, hey, there's food, or watch out, danger. But the real why behind that difference? Well, it all comes down to 6 special ingredients.
Okay, let's kick things off with the first one. This is all about how our language lets us break free from the here and now.
It's a feature called displacement, and it's this amazing ability we have to talk about things that aren't right in front of us. We can chat about what we did yesterday, make plans for next year, or even argue about things that aren't even real, like, dragons or lightsabers. We are totally untethered from the present moment.
I mean, think about your cat for a second. It's an expert at telling you, I want that food in my bowl and I want it now, right? Super clear. But can it tell you about that awesome tuna it was dreaming about last night? Or the salmon it's hoping you'll buy tomorrow? Nope, it's stuck. Its communication is locked in the present tense. Now, there is one really fascinating exception in the animal kingdom. The honeybee. A bee can fly back to its hive and do this wild little waggle dance that tells all the other bees where it just found a great source of nectar. And that is a form of displacement. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. It can only talk about its last trip. It can't tell the others about that amazing field of clover it found last week. The signal is temporary. All right, let's move on. Now we're going to see how these features start to build on each other to create what is essentially an infinite idea machine. So first up in this section is something called arbitrariness. It sounds kind of technical, but it's a really simple idea. All it means is that the words we use for things, well, they're basically made up. There's no real connection between the word dog and an actual 4-legged furry creature. It doesn't look like a dog, it doesn't bark like a dog. It's just a random combination of sounds that a group of people, in this case English speakers, all agreed would mean dog. And that's exactly why it's chien in French or perro in Spanish. The connection is purely conventional. And that arbitrariness leads us to our next property, and honestly, this one is a total game changer. It's called productivity. This is our incredible ability to generate a basically infinite number of new sentences to describe totally new situations. I mean, think about it. You could say a sentence right now that has literally never been uttered before in all of human history, and I'd probably understand you. Our language isn't some fixed menu, it's a creative engine. And to really see the limits of animal communication here, let's go back to those bees. There is this brilliant experiment by a scientist named Carl von Frisch. What he did was he put a beehive at the bottom of a tall radio tower and then placed a food source at the very, very top. This was a situation the bees had never encountered before. So a few scout bees found the food way up top. They flew back down to the hive and, just like they're supposed to, they started doing their waggle dance to tell everyone else where to find the goods. They were trying their best to communicate this totally new vertical location. But it didn't work. The other bees in the hive got the message, but they were totally confused. They flew out and searched everywhere, horizontally, left, right, forwards, backwards. But not one of them ever flew up. Why? Because their language, their dance, simply had no signal for up. It lacked the productivity to create a brand new signal for a brand new situation. Okay, for our last set of properties, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how language is actually built. It's all about how the sounds themselves are the secret to its power. This one is called cultural transmission, and it's a really important one. It just means that language isn't something we're born with. It's not in our genes.
We have to learn it from the people and the culture around us. Think of it this way. You inherit your eye color from your parents, but you have to learn your language from your community.
And the proof for this is so simple but so powerful. If you take an infant born to Korean parents, but then have that child adopted and raised from birth by English-speaking parents in, say, Ohio, that child will grow up speaking perfect English, without a trace of a Korean accent or vocabulary. It's undeniable proof that language comes from our culture, not our DNA.
All right, next up is discreteness. This just means that our language is made up of a bunch of distinct individual sounds, like the sound p and the sound b. They're clearly different, right? They're separate units. And because they're separate, we can swap them out to totally change a word's meaning. We can take pat and just swap that one sound to get bat, a completely different word. It's really like we have a finite box of Lego bricks, the sounds, that we can use to build an infinite number of things, words and sentences.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most mind-bending property, duality of structure. Now, I know that sounds super academic and complicated, but stick with me, because it's actually an incredibly clever and efficient system. All it means is that our language is working on two different levels at the exact same time.
So what are these two levels? Well, on level 1, you have a limited number of individual sounds. Think about the sounds b, e, and n. On their own, they don't mean anything. They're just noises. But then, on level 2, we combine those meaningless sounds to create words that are packed with meaning, like bin or nib. It's this amazing 2-for-1 deal. A small set of sounds gives us a massive vocabulary. It's super, super efficient.
Now, let's contrast that with a dog's woof. A woof doesn't have this two-level structure. It's just one single unit of sound that has one single meaning, like hey or get out. A dog can't break its woof down into the sounds W, O, and F and then, rearrange them to make a new word like foo that means I'm hungry. The signal is what it is. It's fixed.
So when you take all 6 of these properties and you put them all together, you get something that is genuinely extraordinary. You get our unique human superpower, language.
So let's do a quick recap of the whole shebang. We've got displacement, which lets us talk about the past and future. We've got arbitrariness, which gives us those flexible, made-up symbols for things. Productivity, our engine for creating infinite new sentences. Cultural transmission, the fact that we learn it, we don't inherit it. And finally, discreteness and duality, that genius two-layer system of sounds and words that makes the whole thing work.
These 6 properties, all working together, that's what separates Hoover the talking seal from, say, William Shakespeare. This is the stuff that lets us build on the knowledge of our ancestors, create complex societies, and connect with people across the entire planet. So it really leaves you with one big question, doesn't it? If language is our shared superpower, what story are we going to decide to tell next?